Then how Lord is situated inside also, outside also. And He is subtle, He is beyond the power of our material senses. So Lord appears to be divided, but He is never divided. So 13th chapter, 18th verse. ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिस्तमसः परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानगम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य विष्ठितम् ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिस्तमसः परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानगम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य विष्ठितम्. So Jyotisham Api Tajjoti. He is a source of light in all the luminous objects. And then Paramuchate is beyond Param. He is beyond the darkness and is unmanifested. Jnanam is object of knowledge. Gyayam is to be known, is a goal of knowledge, is to be known. Jnana Gamyam, he can be approached only by knowledge. He is knowledge, Jnanam. He is the object of knowledge, that is Gyayam. Jnana Gamyam, he is a goal of knowledge. Or he is approached by knowledge. He is a goal of knowledge. Object and then goal. Seems to be the same, but object of knowledge means what to be known, how to be approached. That is a goal, how to be approached. And then he is situated in everyone's heart. Okay. So he is a source of light in all the luminous objects. That is why about the knowledge has been spoken. If a person is in knowledge, then he is not in darkness. It is why Lord is a source of light, source of knowledge also. He is beyond the darkness of matter. He is knowledge, Jnanam, Gyayam, he is to be known and he can be approached by knowledge. He is object of knowledge and he is a goal of knowledge. Okay. Keep your mobiles on, your videos on. How will I know you're attending the class or you're cooking or you're doing something? If you keep your videos off for a long time, you'll be not considered in the attendance. Your attendance will be affected. I'm very much clear about it. Your attendance will be affected if your videos are not on. This is the compulsory rule. Okay, 1 or 2 times we can excuse you, but not every time. Anuj Prabhu, Aruna Mataji, Palash, keep your videos on. Anuj, because every time I cannot say that keep your videos off. Because this is the first rule of Bhakti Shastri. Palash, Anuj, okay. Pushpa Mataji, read.
Hare Krishna. Jyotisam apita jyotis tamasa paramuchyate jnanam jneyam jnanagamyam hridhi sarvasya vishtitam. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. The Super Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of light in all luminous objects, like the sun, moon, and stars. In the Vedic literature, we find that in the spiritual kingdom, there is no need of sun or moon, because the effulgence of the Supreme Lord is there. In the material world, that Brahma Jyoti, the Lord's spiritual effulgence, is covered by the Mahat Tattva, the material elements. Therefore, in this material world, we require the assistance of sun, moon, electricity, etc. for light. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of such things. It is clearly stated in the Vedic literature that because of his luminous effulgence, everything is illuminated. It is clear, therefore, that his situation is not in the material world. He is situated in the spiritual world, which is far, far away in the spiritual sky. That is also confirmed in the Vedic literature. Aditya
Aditya Varnam
Varnam
Tamasa
Tamasa
Parastat.
Prastat. Shvetasvatara Upanishad 3.8. He is just like the sun, eternally luminous, but he is far, far beyond the darkness of this material world. His knowledge is transcendental. The Vedic literature confirms that Brahman is concentrated transcendental knowledge. To one who is anxious to be transferred to that spiritual world, knowledge is given by the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. One Vedic mantra, Svetasvatara Upanishad 6.18 says, Tam Hadevam Atma Buddhi Prakasham Mumuksur Vai Sharanam Aham Prapadye. One must surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he at all wants liberation. As far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, it is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Tam eva vidhit vati mrityum eti. Only by knowing him can one surpass the boundary of birth and death. Shvetasvatara Upanishad 3.8. He is situated in everyone's heart as the supreme controller. The Supreme has legs and hands distributed everywhere, and this cannot be said of the individual soul. Therefore, that there are two knowers of the field of activity, the individual soul and the super soul, must be admitted. One's hands and legs are distributed locally, but Krishna's hands and legs are distributed everywhere. This is confirmed in the Shvetasvatara Upanishad 3.17. Sarvasya Prabhum Ishanam
Ishanam.
Tattvasya Sharanam Brihat. That Supreme Personality of Godhead Super Soul is the Prabhu or Master of all living entities. Therefore, he is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. So, there is no denying the fact that the Supreme Super Soul and the individual soul are always different. Hare Krishna.
इति क्षेत्रं तथा ज्ञानं चोक्तुं समासत मद्भक्त एतत् विज्ञाय तद्भावायोपपद्यते इति क्षेत्रं तथा ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं चोक्तं समासतः मद्भक्त एतत् विज्ञाय मद्भावायोपपद्यते इति क्षेत्रं. Saurabh Prabhu, keep your mobile in mute. Iti kshetram tatha jnanam. Kshetram. This field of activity, this body, tatha jnanam, is the knowledge. Geyam, the object of knowledge. That means the knowable. Tam. In this way, I have described. Lord has described about the body, about the knowledge. First, about the knowledge, 8 to 12 you can find about the knowledge. And knowable, who has to be known, object of knowledge. And Gyaratamya means how to get that knowledge. So I have described this in a summary. And then Krishna says, Mad Bhaktaha Etad Vijnanam. After understanding this, Mad Bhavaya, they attain my nature. So to understand what is knowledge is most important. Knowledge means to know the difference between soul, God, and matter. Soul, God, and matter. Once you understand that, then field of activity about the body, how this body is constituted of 24 elements. And then how the Kshetrajya, who are the two people who know about this body, the super soul, and the individual soul who knows the difference between body and spirit and the control of body and spirit. And then knowable, who is to be known, or what is to be known, what is the object of knowledge. The object of knowledge is to understand our constitution. Ashish Prabhu, you can read afterwards. Okay. I'm going to give you a name. So here, Madhava Yoga Vadhyate. So in this way, he attains my nature that has been given. Only my devotees can understand this very thoroughly. He's not an ordinary person who can understand the knowledge, object of knowledge, the body. Even to understand the 24 elements in the body, it's not so easy. To know about the 24 elements is not so easy. An ordinary person doesn't know how the body is constituted. That is why they just waste time in thinking that this body is going to be eternal. How these 24 elements are there, how this body takes birth, then stays for some time, then grows, then slowly starts dwindling, then vanishing. All these characteristics of the body is known by only devotees. That is why they can understand my nature, they can attain my nature. So what is nature of Krishna? Eternity is the nature of Krishna. To understand Krishna's nature means understanding our eternal position also, that we are servant of Krishna. In this way, Krishna is master, that is his nature. Krishna is beyond, tamasaha parastar, that has been given here. Aditya Varanam tamasaha parastar. So Krishna is completely transcendental. He is above all the tamas. Even the living entity is also actually above tamas, but somehow getting stuck in tamas. Paropi manite anartham. That has been given. Vedavyasa, when he sees the nature of the soul is parashakti. Apareyamitastvanyam prakritim vidhi he param jiva bhutam mahabaho yedem dharite jagat. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter. When Krishna speaks about Bhumira Ponaro Vayu Kammano Buddhi Revacha Ahankariti Yamme Binna Prakriti Ashtada, 8 elements Krishna speaks. Then immediately the next Krishna speaks about is the Jiva Prakriti. Because about the Prakriti has been asked. So, 2 types of Prakriti, Jada Prakriti, Jiva Prakriti. So, Aparayam itas. So, this is Jiva Prakriti, which is Parashakti of Krishna. And because of the Parashakti of Krishna, what happens? The living entity manipulates the matter. Now, see, we are holding the matter. We can manipulate the matter to the extent we want. Everything has been given, the facility has been given. The soul is residing in this body. The soul has got the facility to use that body to the extent it wants. If it wants to fulfill the material desire, it can do. Also go to clubs, pubs, enjoy. Then also the body is available to enjoy. Want the body to use this body in Krishna's service, then also facility has been given. So manipulating the matter to the extent of the desire, its desire, that facility has been given to the soul. So only a living and only devotees can understand this very thoroughly. And in this way, the devotee, because he is in knowledge, he can never be in tamas, or he crosses that tamas. Okay, Ashish Prabhu, read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
I think you like this verse, huh? read.
Sorry. Iti kshetram tatha gnanam neyam choktam samasatah madbhakta etadignaya madbhavayopapadyate. Translation. Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. The Lord has described in summary the body, knowledge, and the knowable. This knowledge is of 3 things: the knower, the knowable, and the process of knowing. Combined, these are called Vijnana, or the science of knowledge. Perfect knowledge can be understood by the unalloyed devotees of the Lord directly. Others are unable to understand. The monist says that at the ultimate stage, these 3 items become one, but the devotees do not accept this. Knowledge and the development of knowledge mean understanding oneself in Krishna consciousness. We are being led by material consciousness, but as soon as we transfer all consciousness to Krishna's activities and realize that the Krishna is everything, then we attain real knowledge. In other words, knowledge is nothing but the preliminary stage of understanding devotional service perfectly. In the 15th chapter, this will be very clearly explained. Now, to summarize, one may understand that verses 6 and 7, beginning from Mahabhutani and continuing through Chetana Dhrita, analyze the material element and certain manifestation of the symptoms of life. This combined to form the body or the field of activities. And verses 8 through 12 from Amantivam through Tattva Nara Darsanam. Describe the
Darshanam.
describe the process of
Tattva Darshanam. Darshanam.
Tattvagnanartha Darsanam. Describe the process of knowledge for understanding both types of knower of the field of activities, namely the soul and the supersoul. Then verses 13 through 18, beginning from Anadimat Param, continuing through Riddhi Sarvasya Visthitam, describe the soul and the supreme lord or the supersoul. Thus, three items have been described: the field of activity, the body, the process of understanding, and both the soul and supersoul. It is especially described here that only the unalloyed devotees of the Lord can understand these three items clearly. So for these devotees, Bhagavad Gita is fully useful. It is they who can attain the supreme goal, the nature of Supreme Lord Krishna. In other words, only devotees and not others can understand Bhagavad Gita and derive the desired result. Hare Krishna.
So, field of activity you have in 6th and 7th verse about the body. Mahabhutani 24 elements have been given. And then 8 to 12, the process of knowledge. That means the nature, the process, how to attain the knowledge. For understanding two types of knowers, the process of knowledge. 13 and 18 about the two types of knowers. There is soul and the super soul has been given. Okay, summary. Then Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidhyanadi Ubhavapi Vikaramscha Gunamschaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidhyanadi Ubhavapi Vikaramscha Gunamschaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Prakriti, this material nature. Then living entities. The living entities, there is Purusham, living entities. They have no beginning. That means they are beginless. It has been existing. Matter has been existing. That is, out of the 5 subject matters, only one is changeable. Other all 4 are eternal. Even matter is also eternal. Vikaran, that means the transformation. And the modes of material nature, they are all produced of material nature. So modes, 3 modes of nature, they are all part of material nature. Transformation, how the transformation happens, how the body goes on changing. So how the living entity attains different types of bodies, the transformation. And then within the body itself, there are so many transformations. In this lifetime itself, we have changed so many bodies. All these, they are the products of material nature. Even the changes, what happens, they are also products of material nature. 6 types of changes happen to the body. Any body can say. They are born, they grow, they stay for some time, they produce offspring, then slowly they start dwindling and then vanishing. So in this way, the transformations, they are also part of material nature. So here Purushaha refers to the living entity. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva. Vidyanado. Vidyanado, that means there is no Vidhi Anadi. There is no beginning. Okay. Anuj Prabhu, read.
Hare Krishna. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanati Ubhavapi Vikaransha Gunashaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Translation: Material nature and the living entities should be understood to the beginningless. Their transformation and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Purport: by the knowledge given in this chapter, one can understand the body, the field of activities, and the knows of the body, both the individual soul and the super soul. The body is the field of activity and it's composed of material nature. The individual soul that is embodied and enjoying the activities of the body is Purusha or the living entities. He is the one knower and the other is super soul. Of course, it is to be understood that both super soul and the individual entity are a different manifestation of the supreme personality of Godhead. The living entity is in the category of his energy, and the super soul is in the category of his personal expansion. Both material nature and the living entity are eternal. That is to say that they existed before the creation. The material manifestation is formed from the energy of Supreme Lord, and so also are the living entities. But the living entities are of the superior energy. Both the living entities and material energy, material nature existed before this cosmos was manifested. Material nature was absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu, and when it was required, it was manifested by the agency of Mahat Tattva. Similarly, the living entities are also in him, and because they are conditioned, they are averse to serving the Supreme Lord. Thus, they are not allowed to enter into the spiritual sky. But with the coming forth uh, of the material nature, these living entities are again given a chance to act in material world and prepare themselves enter into the spiritual world. That is the mystery of this material creation. Actually, the living entity is original, the spiritual part, and the parcel of Supreme Lord. But due to his rebellious nature, he is conditioned within the material nature. It really does not matter how the living entities or the supreme entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. In the scriptures, the Lord says that those attracted by this material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. But we should know it with certainty from the descriptions of these few verses that all transformation and influences of material nature by the three modes are also production of material nature. All transformations and variety in respect to living entities are due to the body. As far as spirit is concerned, living entities are all the same. Hare Krishna.
So living entities are the same. And means every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. And it has been very clearly said, part and parcel. Like drops of water is the same. Isn't it? One minute. I got me clear. Okay. Every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna, and actually every living entity is the same because the living entity occupies a body, and the body is run because of the three modes of material nature, or the body is influenced by the three modes of material nature. Activity seems to be different. Taste seems to be different. Everything seems to be different. Okay. कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे हेतुप्रकृतिरुच्यते पुरुषः सुखदुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतुरुच्यते कार्यकारणं कारणकर्तृत्वे. Karya means effect, cause, kartutve, in the matter of creation. So when there is a creation, naturally there is an effect. And why the effect is there? There is a cause. So in this way, hetu prakriti, the instrument is given. The cause and effect in the creation, hetu the instrument, prakriti the material nature, uchyate is said. Purushaha sukha dukkham. The living entity is sukha dukkham, that means sukha, dukha, happiness, distress, bhuktutva, enjoyment. Hetu, the instrument is said to be. So the instrument has been given. And how is this instrument given? Seeing the nature is a cause. Seeing the cause of the material causes, seeing the cause of the material causes and effects. And the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyment in this world. So the living entity experiences various enjoyment, various sufferings. According to its karma, it gets body, which has its own cause. The cause of material causes, very nicely it has been said. Nature is said to be the cause of all the material causes. Yes. What is the cause of all the causes? That is nature. Nature is the cause. How you are getting everything? Because of nature. Why you are getting everything? Because there is a material cause for it. Reason. Cause means reason. So nature is the reason for giving everything. And why you are getting everything again? Because there is a material reason behind it. And when you get everything, naturally there is a effect after getting the things provided by the nature. And living entity, that is a cause of various sufferings. Why should material nature suffer? Why should the body suffer? It is because of the living entity. Which portion of living entity? The desire portion of living entity. The living entity desires. There are three kartas. Living entity is also karta, body is also karta, and Lord is also karta, doer. At the same time, three are non-doers. At what level the living entity is the doer? At the level of desire. Because it desires something which is different from Lord. Or the desire is not related to Krishna. That is why experiencing happiness, experiencing distress. Like somebody in the train was telling you, we are experiencing happiness. That is your desire. I should go with the family. I should enjoy with the family. So then you are enjoying that moment because you desire. You choose to do certain acts to fulfill that desire. And who sanctions that? Lord sanctions. And sometimes there is a lot of distress. You fight with someone. You experience the distress. So who is the cause for all these things? Material desire. That is, the living entity is the cause. And who is the cause for the cause and effect also? That is the nature. Body. Okay. Mayur Prabhu, read. Why your videos off, Prabhu? Mayur Prabhu, read. Or Shilpa, read. Keep the videos off, on as much as possible. Shilpa Mataji. Read.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे हेतुप्रकृतिरुच्यते पुरुषः सुखदुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतुरुच्यते. Meaning, nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. Purport. The different manifestations of body and senses among the living entities are due to material nature. There are 84 lakh different species of life, and these varieties are creations of the material nature. They arise from the different sensual pleasures of the living entity, who thus desires to live in this body or that. When he is put into different bodies, he enjoys different kinds of happiness and distress. His material happiness and distress are due to his body and not to himself as he is. In his original state, there is no doubt of enjoyment. Therefore, that is his real state. Because of the desire to lord it over material nature, he is in the material world. In the spiritual world, there is no such thing. The spiritual world is pure. But in the material world, everyone is struggling hard to acquire different kinds of pleasures for the body. It might be more clear to state that this body is the effect of the senses. The senses are instruments for gratifying desire. Now the sum total body and instrument senses are offered by material nature. And as this will be clear in the next verse, the living entity is blessed or damned with circumstances according to his past desire and activity. According to one's desires and activities, material nature places one in various residential quarters. The being himself is the cause of his attaining such residential quarters, and his attendant enjoyment or suffering. Once placed in some particular kind of body, he comes under the control of nature because the body being matter acts according to the laws of nature. At that time, the living entity has no power to change that law. Suppose an entity is put into the body of a dog. As soon as he is put into the body of a dog, he must act like a dog. He cannot act otherwise. And if the living entity is put into the body of a hog, then he is forced to eat stool and act like a hog. Similarly, if the living entity is put into the body of a demigod, he must act according to his body. This is the law of nature. But in all circumstances, the super soul is with the individual soul. That is explained in the Vedas, Mukunda Upanishad 3.1.1, as follows.
Which Upanishad? Mundaka.
Okay, sorry, Mundaka Upanishad, as follows.
Dva Suparna Suyaja Sakhaya.
The Supreme Lord is so kind upon the living entity that he always accompanies the individual soul and in all circumstances is present as the super soul or Paramatma.
So Lord accompanies the individual soul when the soul changes from one body to another body. So what a compassion this is. Lord is not keeping us alone. Lord is always there with us. There is not a place where one is alone. Lord is accompanying us in every circumstances. And also because of Lord, we are sometimes having memory, sometimes forgetfulness. Pata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Smritir, remembrance, apohanam, forgetfulness, jnanam, knowledge. Okay? 22nd verse. Purushaha prakrutistho hi bhukte prakrutijan gunan. Shilpa, mute your phone. Karanam gunasangosya sadasat yoni janmasu. Purushaha prakrutistho hi bhukte prakrutijan gunan. Karanam gunasangosya sadasat yoni janmasu. So Purusha, this living entity, Prakriti stha means situated in this Prakriti, certainly enjoys bhukte Prakriti Jan Gunan. So the body which is made up of three modes of material nature, body which is produced in this material nature, the cause, the three modes of the material nature becomes the cause, Guna Sangha, association with the material nature. Asya, this living entity, Sad, Asad, Yoni. So how this body, the Sad and Asad, that means good body, bad body, different types of body, different types of birth, or meeting with such people, how it is happening is just because of the association with the material nature. So the living entity thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. Bhungte Prakriti Sthan. So situated in the material nature is enjoying the material nature, enjoying the three modes of material nature. And why? Because it is getting associated with the three modes of material nature. Because of that, sometimes good people, sometimes bad people, sometimes wonderful species, sometimes bad species. It has to meet. Meet means it has to get. The living entity meets good species or bad species. So different types of species a person gets because of the influence of material nature, association of material nature. Very important, this aspect is. And that is how good species or bad species is decided, Sat, Asat. And what is the cause for all these things? Its own karmas. Living entity is the cause. How? By his own karmas. And this is the cause to be the cause of getting the material nature or material body. And how the body is there? Because of the cause. Which is the cause? The karmas are the cause. What is the effect? Effect is the bodies in the different types of species. Okay. Aruna Mataji, read.
Hare Krishna. Purushah prakritisto hi bhunte prakriti jana gunan karanam guna sangosya sada sadyoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. Purport. This verse is very important for an understanding of how the living entities transmigrate from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter that the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another, just as one changes dress. This change of dress is due to his attachment to material existence. As long as he is captivated by his false manifestation, he has to continue transmigrating from one body to another. Due to his desire to lord it over material nature, he is put into such undesirable circumstances. Under the influences of material desire, the entity is born sometimes as a demigod, sometimes as a man, sometimes as a beast, and sometimes as a bird, as a worm, as a aquatic, as a saintly man, as a bird. This is going on. And in all cases, the living entity thinks himself to be the master of his circumstances. Yet he is under the influences of the material nature. How he is put into such different bodies is explained here. It is due to association with the different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above the three material modes and become situated in the transcendental position. That is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, his material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another because he has material desires since time immemorial. But he has to change conception. That change can be affected. That change can be effected only by hearing from authoritative sources. The best example is here. Arjuna is hearing the science of God from Krishna, the living entity. If he submits to this hearing process, will lose his long cherished desire to dominate material nature and gradually and proportionately as he reduces his long desires to dominate, he comes to enjoy spiritual happiness. In Vedic mantra, it is said that as he becomes learned in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he proportionately relish his eternal blissful life. Hare Krishna.
So, Prakriti is also the cause, and this material nature is also a cause, living entity is also the cause for the different types of effect which the body undergoes. Different effects which the body undergoes. Okay, in the defects, ka, dukha, everything is there. In the defect, you can find even the different types of bodies which a living entity gets. Now, there is another person who is the cause. That is the super soul. How the super soul is caused? Because the super soul is seeing everything. And then also permitting also. Upadrashta anumantaha. So how the living in, how the super soul or Krishna is also the doer. Three types of doer. In this is the, for the, we had given these verses when the doer question had come. Who are the different types of doer? At the time this verse had been put. 13th chapter 23rd verse speaks about Lord to be the doer. Upadashtanumantacha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purusha para. Upadrashta, Lord is seeing all our activities. Drashta means he is the knower. He is seeing all our activities. Upadrashta. Anumanta, then seeing that ardent desire of the soul, then Krishna permits also. And then he is Bharta. Bharta Bhoktva. Bharta means he is a master. Bhoktva means he is a supreme enjoyer. And he is Maha Ishvaraha. He is a supreme Lord. Then Paramatma, he is a super soul. Cha apyuktaha. This way indeed, yuktaha means it is said, Dehesmin Purusha Para. So in this body, the super soul is actually enjoying. How it's enjoying? Because it is the proprietor, the super soul is the proprietor, seeing all our activities is a permitter, and in this way, he is the transcendental enjoyer. Before that, what was the verse? The jiva is also the cause, the material nature is also the cause, living entity thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the moods of material nature that has been given. But now here, in the 23rd verse, how the super soul is the cause or how the super soul is the doer has been spoken. Saurabh Prabhu, read.
उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. It is stated here that the super soul, who is always with the individual soul, is the representation of the Supreme Lord. He is not an ordinary living entity. Because the monist philosophers take the knower of the body to be one, they think that there is no difference between the super soul and the individual soul. To clarify this, the Lord says that he is represented as the Paramatma in every body. He is different from the individual soul. He is para, transcendental. The individual soul enjoys the activities of a particular field, but the super soul is present not as finite enjoyer nor as one taking part in bodily activities, but as the witness, overseer, permitter, and supreme enjoyer. His name is Paramatma, not Atma, and he is transcendental. It is distinctly clear that the Atma and Paramatma are different. The super soul, the Paramatma, has legs and hands everywhere, but the individual soul does not. And because the Paramatma is the Supreme Lord, he is present within to sanction the individual soul's desiring material enjoyment. Without the sanction of the Supreme Soul, the individual soul cannot do anything. The individual is Bhukta or the sustained, and the Lord is Bhokta or the maintainer. There are innumerable living entities, and he is staying in them as a friend. The fact is that every individual living entity is eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and both of them are very intimately related as friends. But the living entity has the tendency to reject the sanction of the Supreme Lord and act independently in an attempt to dominate nature. And because he has this tendency, he is called the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord. The living entity can be situated either in the material energy or in the spiritual energy. As long as he is conditioned by the material energy, the Supreme Lord, as his friend, the Super Soul, stays with him just to get him to return to the spiritual energy. The Lord is always eager to take him back to the spiritual energy, but due to his minute independence, the individual entity is continually rejecting the association of spiritual light. This misuse of independence is the cause of his material strife in the conditioned nature. The Lord, therefore, is always giving instruction from within and from without. From without, he gives instructions as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, and from within, he tries to convince the living entity that his activities in the material field are not conducive to real happiness. Just give it up and turn your fate towards me. Then you will be happy, he says. Thus, the intelligent person who places his faith in the Paramatma or the Supreme Personality of Godhead begins to advance toward a blissful eternal life of knowledge. Mataji, you're on mute.
Okay. So we'll take the last verse for today. य एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न स भूयोऽभिजायते. Veti means understand. Whoever understands this truth about the Prakriti, about the three modes of material nature, how there's an interaction between the Jiva, Purusham, Prakritihi, Gunaihi, then in all the ways, Vartamanaha is situated where? In the transcendental world. That is why he will not take birth again, because he has understood this philosophy concerning material nature, living entity, interactions of modes of material nature. Somebody comes and scolds you, get angry, isn't it? But if you see the influence of the modes of material nature, you will only see, oh, material nature is making him get angry. So then you are not blaming that person, nor you are blaming the modes of material nature. Because as much as the three are doers, three are also non-doers. So when you see the modes which is causing a person behave in a different way, you are neither affected in a happy mood or you are neither affected in a sad mood. You're only seeing the material nature to be the cause. Nacha bhuyo bijayate. In this way, he doesn't have to take birth again in this material world. Because he knows the nature of the material world. Since he knows the nature of the material world, he doesn't blame anyone. He sees the hand of the material nature, and he also sees that how Lord, he is the permitter. Even the material nature is subordinate to Krishna. So that has been given. Nacha bhuyo bijayate. In this way, he doesn't have to take birth again. If he knows the philosophy behind Jnanam, then there is a Purusham and Prakriti and the Gunas, how the Gunas are affecting. Okay. Bala Shri.
ये एवं वेति पुरुषां प्रकृतिं च गुणाः गुणैः सह सर्वथा
वर्तमानोऽपि
न सा भूयो भिजायते. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of the material nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Purport. Clear understanding of material nature, the supersoul, the individual soul, and their interrelations make one eligible to become liberated and turn to the spiritual atmosphere without being forced to return to this material nature. This is a result of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is to understand distinctly that the living entity has by chance fallen into this material existence. By this personal endeavor in association with authority, saintly person, and the spiritual master who has to understand his position and then revert to the spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness by understanding Bhagavad Gita as it is explained by personality of Godhead, then it is certain that he will never come back again to this material existence. He will be transferred into the spiritual world for a blissful eternal life of knowledge. Hare Krishna.
So when a person sees the action reaction of the modes of material nature, is always in bliss. He is always in the eternal world. He may be living in this material world, but he is always in the eternal world. Like Srila Prabhupada, even though there were so many adverse circumstances, like in the newspaper it is written Hare Krishnas are thieves in Russia, but Srila Prabhupada is experiencing the bliss. Why? Because The spiritual master is always in knowledge. The spiritual master knows. He's such an acharya, he can see that this is all the effects of the modes, and he's seeing that Hare Krishna, everybody is chanting Hare Krishna. He said, this is what I wanted. His disciples are asking, you wanted everybody to publish that we are all thieves? No. Prabhupada said, Hare Krishna Sathis has been published, not we are all thieves. Hare Krishna Sathis. So everybody chanted Hare Krishna. That is why today Russia has the maximum number of temples. So many devotees are there. Just because of the wonderful nature of the acharyas. So acharyas, the spiritual master, they know the nature of the world. They know what influences a person, what type of food habits are influencing the person. That's why they are not disturbed at any situation. Once Srila Prabhupada was called for dinner, and then so many items are made. The owner of the house was very happy to welcome Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. Prabhupada could smell out that everything has onion and garlic. When he went inside, the person went inside to bring more dishes. Prabhupada asked his student, did you not inform that we don't take onion and garlic? He said, oh, Prabhupada, I forgot to do that. Prabhupada said, anyhow, have it now. Now just see. He did not do any fussing there. That I don't take onion, garlic, nothing. Just have it now. Because we did not inform. And this person practically made whole table, so many items. More than 50 items. Prabhupada said, have it. Next day, when he came to know that I fed the spiritual master with onion, garlic, he was crying, and he came and gave a land in Fiji Islands. That is how the temple in Fiji Island was made. Just seeing the tolerance of the acharyas. Because acharyas know that the efforts taken by the people, and they know they are not influenced by any tamas. Onion, garlic has tamas. They say that we should not have tamas. True. But when the circumstances were such that when people, because the person has dedicated himself to welcome Prabhupada, it was the mistake of the Prabhupada's disciple. Prabhupada did not blame. Any of Prabhupada is not going to get affected by all these things. Even because of Prabhupada's influence, even his students will not get affected by all these things. So that is why that day Prabhupada said, just have it. Don't have any fuss, just have it. And because of this, the person was so influenced. He started blaming himself. Oh, I should have understood. Why I did not understand all these things. He was blaming himself. Prabhupada said, don't blame yourself. It was our mistake. We did not inform. So that is Prabhupada. That is the influence of acharyas. So here we will stop. Any questions you can ask. We have just another 11 verses to complete this chapter. So we'll try to do this maybe on Saturday, because Friday I have some appointment. Honestly, I cannot take on Friday.
Saturday exam is there, Mataji.
So leave then. Monday we'll do it. Okay, study for Saturday, Sunday.
Mataji,
Yes.
I have one question, but it is not related to this chapter. In exam, we got one question saying which is the favorite month of Krishna. So, huh? No, it was, you had explained that it is a spring season, and when the flowers bloom, and Khet Khalyan mein also everything is bloomed up and everything.
I have not spoken on these things.
In chapter 10th chapter.
I have not spoken. Khet Khalyan and all I have not spoken.
No, meaning it is a spring season. Everything is very...
season. In 10th chapter, this is not there, spring season and all.
10.35, Mataji.
You see what is that verse? Margashrish,
it is Margashrish month, but in Margashrish month comes in December, no? That time there is no spring season.
That is what I told her. I have not spoken about spring.
Okay.
Krishna doesn't say that I like this month. Krishna identifies himself with that month. Masoham.
The question was, which is the favorite month of Krishna?
Question itself is wrong. Which month is identified with Krishna? That should be the question. You tell your examiner to form a proper question first.
Or maybe I'll just check the question again then.
Yeah.
Before I tell anything.
You say which month is favorite to Krishna, then it is actually Kartik. Kartik is identified with Radharani. Whatever is identified with Radharani is dear to Krishna. So if it is formulated like this, then you should write Kartik. And if you are giving 0 mark, then you should blame the teacher. Okay.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Yes. Anything else? 11 verses we'll take on Monday so that we can complete with 13, 14, 15. Monday is what? Monday is 22nd. Monday
22nd month.
Monday is opening of Ayodhya. So it's a Deeptan Utsav and all. So I'll see next week, maybe on Wednesday only we have to take the class. Okay. Panchakalpata Viveshak, passing the